In October of, in October of 2022, I enrolled in a course in permaculture design. Permaculture is an ethical design framework that seeks to design human settlements that mimic the resiliency and abundance of natural systems. After 8 months of nights and weekends and one frantic 2-week stretch of 12-hour days, I earned my permaculture design certificate. I learned to read the landscape, studying patterns, trees, water, and soils. I explored the design strategies unique to each climate type, and roughly there are 3 types: the humid tropics, where we wish we were right now; humid, cool to cold climates, where we actually are; and dry lands, where much of the Bible takes place. Arid landscapes are defined as having less rainfall than evaporation. That is, the water leaving the system exceeds the water entering it. In the desert or wilderness, 10 years worth of water can flow in a one-day water event. If we're not ready for the water when it comes, there went 10 years of life and growth. My teacher, the Australian master Jeff Lawton, summarized the risks of this landscape well. It is very easy to be wrong in the desert. For 40 years, the people of Israel proved just how wrong you can be. God showed up to Moses in the flame of a burning bush, and it was not the burning that was so remarkable, it was the desert. Stuff caught on fire all the time. Rather, the bush was burning but not consumed. And curious, Moses drew close to find out why, and that's when God called him and told him to take off his shoes, for where he was standing was holy ground. This God said he'd heard the cries of a people in slavery and had chosen Moses to lead them to freedom. Moses said, "I don't preach very well." God said, "It's not about you." Moses asked, "Who should I say sent me?" God said, "Not your problem, but if you must, tell them, I am sent you." This God was true to his word and delivered God's people from slavery in a terrifying middle-of-the-night event they called the Exodus. From there, I Am led this ragamuffin band through the wilderness, and what should have been a journey of weeks rolled into months, rolled into 40 years. God kept up the divine part of the covenant, shading them with a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. As for the human part, mostly the people complained. They grumbled about no water. God told them to strike the rock and the water flowed. They grumbled about no bread. God told them to forage each morning for manna on the ground. Manna, which literally means, what is it? And though it kept them alive for 40 years, they longed to go back to slavery because they liked the food better. Eventually, 40 years was up, and there were no more tests to fail, and God led them into the promised land anyway. It was a land better than any they'd ever experienced and could have hoped for. A land flowing with milk and honey, where for the first time in their lives, they would have not only enough, but also abundance. Careful, God said, and don't forget where you came from. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke all agree on this one point. There was in the desert a one-day water event more significant than anything they'd ever witnessed. John the Baptist had designed his whole life to be ready for and capture this moment. On that day in the river Jordan, Jesus went beneath the waters of the flood to undergo John's baptism of repentance. And when Jesus emerges from the flood, the God whom he calls Father calls Jesus his beloved Son. In all three gospel accounts, what happens next is identical. The same Spirit who alighted on Jesus' shoulder like a dove now drives him into the wilderness to confront the devil. We are meant to hear and to see a new Moses at hand, one summoned by God in the desert to lead a people out of bondage and freedom, one tested in the wilderness just as God's people were long ago. There are, I'm sure, lessons to be gleaned from Jesus regarding how you and I might resist the temptations that we face in our daily lives. But I don't think that's the point of this passage. The temptations Jesus experienced are unique and unrepeatable, namely because while he's fully human as we are, he's also fully divine as we are definitely not. Swiss pastor and theologian Karl Barth wrote, "As the one great sinner in the name and place of all others, without any prospect of glory, quite unsuccessfully, indeed, with the certainty of failure, Jesus willed to continue worshiping and serving God alone. He willed to persist in repentance and obedience. This was the righteousness which he achieved for us." The difference between Jesus and us? In the wilderness, Jesus is resolutely faithful to God. In the desert, shelter is survival. When I showed up at St. Clement's 13 years ago, we had $500,000 in debt from a previous renovation with no plan to pay it off. We had a physical building that in recent years had accumulated a decade of deferred maintenance because we had no money. We launched the Giving for Growth campaign in part to set these things to right. And by God, we have. We've retired our debt, broken the back of the deferred maintenance items, fixed our lift, improved safety and accessibility and beauty. And for all these things, I give thanks to God and the radical faithfulness of the more than 60 volunteers who ran and led our campaign and who continue to serve. We have so much to be proud of and to celebrate, and I'm the first in line to say so. And when we're inside as beautiful a shelter as this one, it's easy to feel insulated from the extremes of the wilderness just outside our walls. I need to tell you that God has called me among you for more than improving your shelter. God has called me to help lead you through the wilderness. And there we must learn to follow Jesus together. The road ahead of us is not like the one behind us. The maps that have brought us safely to this point are no longer reliable. So we've got to stop and talk to strangers a lot more. The teenager whose mental health spiraled in the pandemic and has never recovered. The young adult sick of another night in the bar scene and wondering if there's anyone else out there looking for a life of depth and purpose. The senior working hard to navigate their way through the extreme sport of aging. The young parent juggling sleepless nights and sick kids and wondering if it gets better. The empty nester wondering what their purpose is when the kids have flown and if their marriage will survive the transition. The food bank user who wonders how it came to this. This is the wilderness, my friends. This is the year in which we step boldly into the wild. We will hire a young adults pastor to reach those in their 20s and 30s in this place and in the neighborhood. We will continue expanding ministry for children and youth with a special focus on tweens. Our digital ministry team will continue to expand our growth and impact in the virtual realm. Fully 50% of our worshiping community, a majority of whom are seniors. We will hire a ministry and community coordinator to strengthen the ties that bind all of us together on this journey. Going beyond the building into the wilderness is going to be hard and uncomfortable. There will be some complaining. We will say no to lots of good things so that we can say yes to the few great opportunities that will alter our future. We might fail. But if we fail, let us fail in the wilderness where Christ goes before us and the devil is on the run, not in the safety of our shelter. In uncertain times, the most important thing we can do is stick close to one another. In this crazy outfit we call the church, our currency with one another is trust. Trust is what enables us to learn new skills to survive and thrive. St. Mark's account of Jesus' temptation concludes with these evocative words. Jesus was with the wild beasts, and the angels looked after him. Maybe the wild beasts know something that we humans forget. If you want to survive in the wilderness, draw close to the place where Jesus is. I close with a true story. The other night, just a few weeks ago, I left the church building in the dark. Big snowflakes were falling as I stepped into my car and tried to safely navigate the single-file lane that was St. Clement's Avenue. The snow had blown into apocalyptic formations, uneven mounds on either side of the road. I was driving west, maybe 50 meters from the church, when I caught in my headlights an apparition coming toward me down the center of the road. A white and gray coyote, eyes fixed straight ahead, loping along with unhurried purpose in the direction of the church. Wildness itself, breath smoking in the night. He paid me no mind whatsoever, and I lost sight of him as he loped past me in the falling snow, running toward the place I'd just left, as if to say, "We're always here. Tonight I just let you see me." Who else is out there in the wilderness? Let's go together to find out.